This was the hardest, most silent fight I've ever had because I didn't know what was going. I was literally in constant fear. And that progressed into derealization, depersonalization. Like I remember I was standing there one time and I looked in my room and my son was in my room. I'm like, am I even in my house? Is that my son? And it just kept spiraling. And then I started getting intrusive thoughts. Am I going to become suicidal? Can I not handle this? And it just kept going. So I was just living in survival mode. I think the biggest piece that has helped me is learning that anxiety can't actually hurt you, because in the depths of it, when you're in that dark place, it feels like it can kill you.
I don't know who designed us, but it's unfair, isn't it? This cycle that we get in, we do what's completely natural. We don't want to feel this, so we run away. We go home. We try to fight it. We do all these kind of things, and then how are we repaid? I guess with more anxiety, right? So it's really kind of a weird, unfair cycle that we're in. But obviously, knowledge helps, and then practice helps. And you've shown yourself that.
Yeah, my name is Casandra Ryan. I live in Minnesota in the United States. I live with my husband and my two kids. I have a 14-year-old and an 11-year-old, boy and a girl.
Awesome. And can you tell us a little bit about your situation before you joined the program?
So for as long as I can remember, I've had anxiety. I have quite a bit of childhood trauma, which has led to a very anxious life. But it was always in the form of worrying about, oh, this doesn't feel right. I have cancer. Like my mind, immediately goes to the far end, or something's going to happen to my kids, worrying about them constantly. But it was more situational anxiety. Then probably over the past couple of years, panic attacks started sneaking in a little bit in the form of whenever I was in public, whether it was at a store, it would happen a lot, like Walmart, or out to eat at a restaurant. I would get super lightheaded and I was convinced I'm going down and fainting. That's it. Mm-hmm. And then I would feel this flush through my body and then it would kind of go away. And I didn't know it was panic. I just didn't know what was happening to me. Then a year ago in May, almost exactly to this day, I woke up one morning and I was panicky. And I'm like, why am I panicking? I just woke up. What's going on? And that day I had multiple panic attacks. And I was like, what is happening? And from that moment, I was living in constant fear because I had no idea what was going on with me. I didn't feel like myself at all. I was continually having panic attacks, just sitting at home. It didn't matter what I was doing. I would tell people, I'm like, I don't know what's wrong with me. I'm scared of being scared. I'm like, who's ever been scared of being scared? What the heck? What? I'm going crazy. And that's when I frantically started figuring out I need something.
At that point, what impact did it have on yourself or others? How did it make you feel?
The hardest time of my life. I have never been through anything and I've been through a lot of scary things. Like I said, I've had a lot of trauma. This was the hardest, most silent fight I've ever had because I didn't know what was going. I was literally in constant fear. And that progressed into derealization, depersonalization. Like I remember I was standing there one time and I looked in my room and my son was in my room. I'm like, am I even in my house? Is that my son? And it just kept spiraling. And then I started getting intrusive thoughts. Am I going to become suicidal? Can I not handle this? And it just kept going. So I was just living in survival mode. Like the thought of my kid's going to be out of school soon, happiness, I couldn't have any of that because I was just so focused on being scared. Or having something as simple as bringing my son to hockey practice. I'm like, I don't know that I can't do anything right now, but figure out how to get back to normal. My husband clearly knew what was happening to me. I tried my heart because another thing that I was scared about was my kids knowing what I was going through. I didn't want them to see that. So I was also trying to hide it from them. They know I have anxiety. They know mom worries. That's never been a secret. But that point in time, I was really trying to be normal for them because I didn't want to scare them.
Makes so much sense. And how did you end up finding out about my program?
What a godsend. Seriously. I instantly just started praying, like, help me, help me, help me. Um, and one night I was scrolling on Facebook, and your phone knows everything about you, so it knew I had anxiety. So like, oh, the Comeo or this or that, all these ads, and I just scroll past them. But yours, there's an ad on Facebook, and it was you explaining the anxiety loop. And I saw it said fear of fear, and I was like, what? And it just stopped me in my tracks, because that's the first time I've ever heard anyone else mention what I was feeling. And like, that's a thing. People can be scared of being scared. And so I watched your video, and it made so much sense. And it was a godsend. It really was.
That's awesome. What did you do after you saw that video and you knew about the anxiety loop, which I've heard so many people say it resonated, and it's like, oh, it's the first time I've seen it. I'm seeing it visual, which was the first thing for me as well when I wrote it down. When I saw it, I'm like, whoa, this is what I actually do, and start recognizing it. What was the next steps you kind of decided to do after that? What did you try it out in real life, or did you start recognizing it, or what did you do?
Yeah, so I saw your video, and then I was like, I did the mini course. So I'm like, okay, I need to hear more about this. And then I went to my husband, and I'm like, this program sounds amazing. I'm like, I have to do the 16-week course, and he's like, go for it. So I dove right in, and
you've got a really supportive husband from
he was very, 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 very supportive. And he actually told me, when I told him I was doing this call, he's like, will you thank him for me too?
Wow, that is beautiful. That's beautiful. Was there any, because I've obviously been there. I've been in the journey. There are lots of things we try, lots of things that unfortunately end up not working. Lots of people saying all kinds of stuff out there. Was there any doubts or fears that you had before joining, maybe even the mini course, or maybe even the masterclass, or the full course and 16-week program? Was there any doubts that you had in your mind?
The strongest, scariest doubt was, this isn't going to work for me. I'm going to be like the one person it doesn't work for, and then what? I'm out of options. I'm just going to be like this forever. So I was scared to do it and fail. It felt like the answer, if that makes sense. So if the answer doesn't work, nothing will.
That makes total sense. And I remember having that fear as well. And I speak to people, and lots of people tell me this: am I doing this right? What if I miss something? What if this doesn't work for me? And that's such such a normal question as well, and such a valid question too, because it's a worry. Like if I try this and I give it all, I'd be really stuck, hopeless, disappointed if it doesn't work for me. So it's very kind of, what made you decide to say yes anyways? Because that is like a fear you kind of had to push through. Because you, like, I can tell you this works, but you don't know. You've got to, like, you went out and tried it, signed up, started that first video, that first week. Now we're months later, and now you know. But back then, what made you decide eventually to say yes and just give it a try?
It made so much sense. The anxiety loop made and just knowing that explanation of what was happening to me, and now being able to recognize what's happening to me and learning not to fear it, that alone helped me tremendously. Before I even started into the 16 weeks, that alone helped me tremendously. And so I'm like, okay, well, it's already got me this far,
I think you mentioned in the email, you talked about the 5 steps a little bit, and not everyone might know what those steps are necessarily, but can you tell me a little bit about, like, some of the things during the program that stood out to you, that really, maybe like breakthroughs that you had during the program?
Yeah. Let's see. Just so I don't forget anything, I wrote some things down.
Are you prepared? That's amazing.
I prepared. Yes.
Awesome.
I didn't want to forget anything. I think the biggest piece that has helped me is learning that anxiety can't actually hurt you, because in the depths of it, when you're in that dark, dark place, it feels like it can kill you. And it's so scary. And so just knowing that it can't hurt me, it's just my brain trying to protect me. That alone was very powerful for me and a huge breakthrough. Recognizing when I'm entering the anxiety loop and being able to tell myself, so what? I don't care. That has been extremely powerful. That's helped me a lot. That was one of the biggest breakthroughs because that even has helped me with the intrusive thoughts too, as they start coming in and just being like, so what? I don't care.
And did you believe that at first, saying the so what?
I was just saying it at first,
Yeah.
and
that's, by the way, that's normal. That is something we do.
Yeah.
It's something we hear, we practice, we do, and eventually we get proof that you can actually say, because so what? It's so powerful, but it grows in strength. At first, it's something you say. You're kind of like, oh, so what? But then you're still kind of scared because this is a practice, as we all always talk about. You don't do this. It's not a technique per se, as in like I'm gonna apply this and then I'm done. It's like a thing we gotta practice. So at first we're like, so what? And you're still kind of, you don't know. Maybe it will hurt me, And then later on, you get proof that when you do that, you're not bothered about the thought. You're not, the symptom might die down, and then it gets more and more and more powerful, where you can really say, I don't care. So what? And what helped you with because it's very interesting, the first point you said, I recognize a lot this used to be a huge thing for me as well. How did you know that that anxiety it actually isn't dangerous? How did you find that out for yourself?
Well, you teaching me, and then thinking like, okay, I have never fainted. I have never, it hasn't hurt me. And then when you go out and do something that scares you, why can't I think of the word?
Like exposure, when you go out and expose it to,
exposure. Yeah. So I'm like, what the heck?
It's so good. You're already starting to forget these words because you're obviously no longer doing all of that stuff. That's great.
Yeah.
So when you do exposure, what happens? What happened?
It was better than I was expecting. I did where you visualize it, the night before.
Yeah.
And I kept just running that through my head, and I think that was powerful. I didn't get the panic I was expecting.
Beautiful. It's interesting, actually, guys, for anyone listening, watching. Hear what she says. She's expecting the panic. And this is where we always talk about exposure. Well, not always, but you tend to hear about exposure as, a way to face the fear, sit through it, just put on a brave face and go and do the thing you're terrified of doing because, might get a panic attack or whatever. That is not what we do in the program, because we actually need to learn first how to respond to anxiety when it shows up. And then we'll go and we'll know, as Casandra said, we know it cannot harm us, but then we actually go and we expect panic, anxiety, whatever, to show up. That is the whole point of exposure, is doing something you want to do, but that probably triggers panic or anxiety, because that way we can practice. You can do that at home as well, and it tends to help to do stuff you want to do. But we need to, in order to heal, in order to recover, in order to practice, we got to actually have anxiety. It's got to be in the moment. So as you said, you expected, and it makes total sense, you expected panic to show up, and then it didn't, or not to the degree you said, not to that high extent.
Because I wasn't scared for it to show up. I think that was the key.
Yes, that is the key, because
that is the key. That is
because the cycles obviously now, having gone through the program, and there's obviously multiple cycles that they kind of sometimes tell the same kind of story but in a different way. But it's like, if we keep acting as if panic is dangerous, if we keep fearing it, then our body is going to help us by giving us more of these these chemicals that will eventually turn into a panic. If you start fighting it more and more, you get to another panic attack. So you kind of get what you don't want, which is like really unfair, by the way. This is all, I don't know who designed us, but it's unfair, isn't it? This cycle that we get in, we do what's completely natural, we do the thing we're all designed to do. We don't want to feel this, so we run away. We go home. We try to fight it. We do all these kind of things, and then how are we repaid? I guess with more anxiety, right? So, it's really kind of a weird, unfair cycle that we're in. But obviously, knowledge helps, and then practice helps. And you've shown yourself that. Did you create the your anxiety monster, or did you not have any? Did you not relate to that exercise?
I created him, and I have a visual of him. I forget about him a lot though, so he wasn't. Yeah, at first after that week, I would tell him to come along. His name was Jasper. And then I kind of forgot about him, and he didn't continue the journey too far with me. But
That's all good, because that actually a good segue to the next question. Where are you now? Can you tell us a little bit about where you after these, because you completed the program, right? If I remember,
I did.
You sent me an email after the 16, the week 16. So you've gone through that. You've done the master, the mini course, gone through the program. Where can you tell us a little bit about where you are now today?
I think back to where I was a year ago today and where I am now, and I don't even have words. It's amazing. It's amazing. I still check in with myself a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Is anxiety there? Then I just say, so what if it is? But my body still likes to check in, or my brain still likes to check in. And be like, oh, are you going to go back to where you were last May? Will you go back there? Will you? And I think I'm confident. I know I will too overcome the checking in, and I'm confident that's the kind of the last piece of the puzzle till I can say I'm truly healed.
It's quite natural to have that fear of, what if I return? What if this is just a temporary kind of thing? I had that too when I just recovered. At first, I didn't even, I forgot about anxiety, and then eventually I kind of, realized, wait, I've overcome this, and I gave myself that label. And then I started having all these worries. What if it's temporary? What if something hits and I get stressed again? Or what if I go, I don't know, do this or that? And that is like, the anxious brain, and, just also just, your own kind of way to protect yourself, I guess, or at least to, it's quite normal, I would say, to worry about that. And it's so good because you're practicing the response even now still. Anytime it comes up, you're like, so what? Because it's very important to realize that what you've learned, you know, and you can just apply that again. Because if you remember the first week of the program, we talk about the goal of the program, and the goal isn't to get rid of anxiety.
Yep.
Remember? It's to to be okay with it. And because being okay with anxiety, which is something you've shown, is something you take with you for the rest of your life. Because anxiety will come back, right? I'm not saying you will get back into the cycle, but anxiety or fear or whatever you want to call it, stress symptoms, whatever, they will eventually go back into your life. And then you're like, oh, wait, there it is. I know what to do. So what? I can handle this. I'm okay. I'll allow it to be. There's Jasper again. I haven't seen you in a while. Where have you been? So you know all the stuff to do. And, if you forget, you just log in, you watch a video. But you won't. Because the more you kind of do this, the more it becomes, just the default. So it makes sense to check in now. And it's so good that you recognize it. So anyone's listening and does the same, maybe potentially recognizing is the first step, is where the power is, that you understand what you're doing, so you can cut it off before it gets into something else. And it's also good to then say to yourself, oh, that's fine. I can check in if I want. I'm not going to let it go much further than that. And I know, just repeat yourself or tell yourself, because it's a fact. It's not a technique. It's not a thing. You know how to deal with anxiety. You know that you're okay with it. And it makes sense that you don't want to go back to that bad situation. But that is not something that only happens if you don't know what anxiety is and you're trying to get rid of it. And that's not something we want to do. I sometimes get symptoms, not often, but if I'm stressed, yes, I'll feel something. And I know how to deal with it. I know I won't spiral out of control. I won't, get to that level of panic or in the go back into the cycle. And that's something you'll show yourself as well over time. So the confidence grows way after the journey. Your confidence keeps on growing. That actually makes a lot of sense.
I do. I just want to say this too. During the 16-week course, after every single video I would watch, I would have more confidence. You were so good at speaking to what I needed and what I needed to hear. Because you first start out the first couple weeks, it's okay, I got this. And then like, oh, there it is. And then I'd watch another video and I'm like, and then the confidence would grow each time. It was amazing. Great course.
Thank you. And can you share with us a few examples of things you weren't able to do back then that you can do now?
One thing that's always been hard for me, even before last May, was the thought of going somewhere in public with my kids by myself. It was always a very, very anxious thing for me and very hard for me to do. That no longer bothers me.
Wow.
And that's probably the biggest thing, because I don't want to miss out with them because I'm scared to do something with them.
Just out of curiosity, are there any of the things you learned, like the 5 steps in the program, can you apply them to this fear as well? Because this is maybe, I don't know what the fear exactly is, but you didn't want to, go out with your kids alone. Can you apply the things you've learned there as well? Or what is the reason why you're able to go and do that now versus before?
I did. That was actually one of my exposures, was to do something with them without my husband there. I don't know why it's always been a fear of mine. I don't, but it always was. And yeah, use the 5 steps. Like, so what? I'm going to go do this anyway because I want to. And then recognize if panic starts setting in, and just said, okay, I'm entering the loop, recognize it, diffuse it, and go on.
That is so good. And anyone listening, you recognize, well, you see, she's talking about the anxiety loop and recognizing it. I'm entering the anxiety loop. That's like such a powerful way to go through it, because you actually understand what's going on. You're like, oh, there we go. I understand this. Whereas before, if I speak for myself, I had no clue what's happening to me. It felt like it was happening to me. I didn't know my own kind of, the way I participated in that unknowingly. And it's so, it can be so, just helpful, I guess, to know, oh, I'm entering this cycle. I know exactly what happens. And I don't know exactly how my body will respond, probably with anxiety symptoms, but I know what's happening, so I know what to do to not make that worse and to just write that out, right? How did it, you spoke of your kids now. How did, you going through this and knowing how to deal with anxiety, how did that affect others around you as well?
Before the program, I was living in survival mode, where now I'm way more engaged. And that was like one of my goals. I want to be able to be fully there for my kids and my husband. And I couldn't before. So I'm happier. I'm more energetic. And that just affects the whole family.
That is amazing. And I love that. I actually love that. And I really relate to that, being present. Because when you're in the fight or flight state, it's so hard to, because you're in the future most of the times, right in your head. Think about all the stuff that can happen.
Yes.
It rarely did, but now I can definitely relate to that. I feel way more present as well ever since that back then. What would you tell someone who's watching this right now, potentially, about and someone that may be unsure about the next step, whether that be go and join the mini course or the 16-week program, The Answer to Anxiety? What would you tell someone watching right now?
You're not alone, first and foremost. And it can be a very scary place and hard to know where to turn for help. And to me, anxiety wave, it's not a fix, quote unquote. You're not, if you just want a quick fix, that doesn't exist. And this course teaches you A, what is happening to you, B, how to respond to it, and C, how to live with it fully. And I couldn't praise it enough. It's life-changing.
Thank you so much. That's beautiful. Now, when you think about, your future, what excites you most? Now you know how to respond to how to respond correctly to anxiety. If you think about your future, what would excite you most at the moment?
I feel like a whole new world opened up for me to be able to explore. My anxiety limited me so much in that I was always scared of something, and the thought of being freed from that. I loved your Alcatraz video. Loved that. And yeah, I feel like I've been freed from Alcatraz, and it's exciting to know you can just live your life how you want without those restrictions and the what ifs haunting you.
Yeah, totally. Just remember what you said about your symptoms, the panic you had back then, a year ago, and the eventually you said, I think you mentioned derealization, depersonalization. Do you, for anyone watching, do you have any tips on what helped you? Is there any insight that you can give on maybe like one of these specific ones, or just in general?
So the scariest symptom to me is the derealization, depersonalization, because you really think you're going crazy. And recognizing that it's normal and other people, it's a normal response to anxiety is very helpful. Lots of people go through it. I actually had a therapist tell me that kids are actually very good at it when there's a reason for it. And children, when they are going through something terrible, they're able to mentally take themselves out of that scary place. So there's a reason for it. And to know that, to know you're not going crazy and that other people do experience this was a huge thing for me. You did a video on it, and that helped me tremendously. Just knowing, like, okay, if he's doing a specific video on it, then I must not be alone.
I get that. Yeah, that helps a lot. Did you? I don't know. I don't remember, but did you join the community as well?
I joined it, but I didn't dive too deep into it, because just for my own journey, sometimes when I read what other people are going through, and I'm like, oh, and then I'll start going through that. And I didn't want to put myself in a place that I wasn't in, if that makes sense. So I tried to stay away from that a little bit.
Yeah, and that's actually a very fair point. That is what we tend to see as well with people in communities, in forums, just all about anxiety. They're like, I'm having this. Do you have this too? Oh, no, I don't. But now I do. Because you're afraid of these things. They're like picking these up, and you're like, no one knows what to do. And we try to be different in the community and give, the advice of what how to respond, but everything. But that is so powerful. And that's actually, I don't know if you remember in the second to last week, I think we talk about, removing the focus on anxiety.
Yes.
Remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's also very near the end of that journey, or at least when you've kind of, proven to yourself, I can handle this, whatever, then it's so important to kind of stop caring about this anymore. Like, I now care about it in a way that's very different. I care about this now to help others, right? Yes. That's why I remember stuff. But otherwise, I would be going on with my life. I wouldn't be in all those communities and forums anymore. Because why would you keep that focus on it if it's something you don't care about? You feel that you've gotten to that mindset shift where you're like, I don't really care about it any longer.
With my brain still wanting to check in a lot, I am really trying to not focus on it anymore, but I'm not totally there yet.
That makes sense. You and that is also why it's interesting to if any day you'd feel a symptom again, to just repeat this and keep on practicing it, because that's eventually how that, we talk about building successes on top of successes. That's what this is as well. You've gone through this, shown yourself, and obviously now, as I said before, you're maybe potentially a little bit worried about it ever returning to that degree again, because you just don't know how it will end. How time will evolve, I guess, in terms of this learning. And it is important to just keep on showing yourself that. And as you do, as you said, you're really good at recognizing it and then applying the steps straight away to it. And if you ever, like, this is just a side tip, if you ever feel like, oh, you're checking in a little bit too much for you, that you feel like, oh, this is coming up too much, just ask for it. That bonus step, bring it on. Why not? If you want to show yourself, like, you don't need to anymore, but you can. If you're like worried about it coming back, just show yourself, tell it to bring it on, because you're not worried about the symptoms, you're not worried about the panic attacks, or you're just worried to go back to that place you were a year ago. And it's important to just realize and keep on showing yourself, I guess, and also just telling yourself that that was because you didn't know what anxiety was and how to respond. That you're not going to forget this stuff. Everything you said, was really like, I can see you get it. You've proven that to yourself. So you won't get to that place again. But I understand it's a place you never want to go back to again. So the brain's still kind of worried about it. And I believe I had that too, as I said, at first, and then eventually it becomes a real truth where you're comfortable saying that you're recovered. And at first it sounds so weird, and you're like, am I jinxing it? And then you're not jinxing it. You're not jinxing it. This is because that's also why you said this is not a quick fix.
Yeah.
Because if you just take something, someone does something, and you are like, oh, this is great, then it's outside of yourself. So you can always worry about it coming back, because then you need that same person again, or the same thing. This is an internal shift. You showed yourself, without like anyone or any, you did this. You didn't need anything else. You didn't take a magic potion or whatever that did. No, you did this. Then you'll know that you can do it again. Then that this is you who's grown. And that I think that it just tends to really help in terms of going forward, knowing this is personal growth, that this is how you now can deal with anxiety. And you can, if you've done it once, you could do it again.
Yep. I tell myself that all the time. Like, hey, I got through it when I didn't know what was happening to me, and
exactly.
Now I'll have the tools inside me to.
That's it. You always have those tools, and eventually, you will probably stop checking it as well, because that eventually you'll be like, oh, there's no point to do it, because you know what this is. But it's very normal, because it hasn't been that long since you finished, a couple of weeks, I think. So it's pretty normal and okay. And we just keep on going. Did you feel like it was annoying to do the 16 weeks in terms of the weight, the pace?
I would say at the beginning, when I was so feverishly like frantic, I'm like, okay, I have to wait now, because I just kept watching videos. I'm like, I have to wait. But then as I was going through the course, there would be a week where I wouldn't even be able to watch a video. So then I'm catching up. So at first I thought I needed to watch it all the time in order to get better. And then as the confidence grew and stuff, then I thought it was perfect. Yeah. Because then if I would miss a week, I didn't feel too far behind either to be able to catch up.
Brilliant. Yeah, no, I totally get them. That is also kind of why I created this. But I do sometimes get people asking like, why do I need to wait? So I understand that too, but it's kind of also like to protect ourselves a little bit, because sometimes we use this as safety behavior as well, just the program itself, where I spoke to someone last night, and she had she's doing so good, and then she says like, oh, I got all my notes with me from the program all the time. I'm like, okay, leave those at home. This. Like, it's so good that you write notes and everything, but are you then, while you're waiting in the waiting room at the doctor's, whatever, at the dentist, are you reading those things to kind of just study? Or are you bringing them in case you get a panic attack? Because obviously then it'd be safety behavior. So it can work that way, which is quite funny as well, actually. But
I also liked how it gave you another thing I like about it just being a week at a time is if I would have been able to just watch as many as I wanted, when I was really scared, I wouldn't have absorbed it all, I don't think. You need the time to process what you just learned before you go on to the next step. And if I just boom, 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 I don't think I would have absorbed it all like I needed to.
Yeah, I agree. That's that was the mindset behind it anyway, so the reason behind it. So I'm glad you said that. So Casandra, again, thank you so much. I really appreciate this, and you taking the time to share this to anyone who's watching, listening, because I know it can feel quite lonely out there, and it helps to kind of see people who've gone through the actual thing you're maybe potentially interested in, and realize that it can work. But obviously, as we discussed, you gotta put in the time yourself. But anyone who's willing can, and really appreciate it. Again, thank you.
Yeah, and I like how you give book recommendations too. I'm reading Dr. Burns's.
Oh yeah, it's really great. Yep.
It's good. Wonderful. And I bought the Now book, Living in the Now. What's that one? The Power of Now.
The Power of Now, Eckhart Tolle, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that's the one. Oh, that's awesome. I love that book actually. It really made me at least try to be more in the now. I bought it back then as maybe as like safety baby. I guess I wanted to just be very mindful to not have anxiety back before I learned all this. And now eventually it's become like a thing. Oh wait, I might actually want to try and become more mindful and be in the now a bit more, which is easier, I guess, if you're out of the fight or flight state as you are now. So it's probably a good next book to consume. Yeah, that's brilliant. Yep. But thank you, really appreciate it. You're awesome. Have a great rest of your day, and it's just amazing to hear you everything you can do now again, and enjoying life with your kids and your husband, and as I said, thank you so much.
Well, thank you. You have a gift. The way you teach the material, you can tell you truly care to help people, and so thank you.